Hello, everyone. I'm Beth Finkel. I'm the state director for AARP New York, and I'm here to welcome you to this very important conversation about Social Security. We are all vested in Social Security, and it's important to all of us. I really want to thank the 92nd Street Y for hosting this important conversation. AARP is very, very proud to be a sponsor of it. So you may not know this, but New York State has nearly 3.7 million Social Security beneficiaries, and that actually includes 220,000 children. And something important that many people don't realize is that Social Security benefits add $64.3 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars to the New York State economy every single year. Most of us, if not all of us, know how important Social Security is in our lives and in the lives of our families. But there are a few things about this program that you may not know. Social Security is not just a retirement program. It is what is known as a contributory social insurance program, and it's intended to provide financial support to families after the loss of a breadwinner through retirement, disability, or death. Every American worker contributes to the program, with each and every one paying into their paychecks. And we do that through what is known as FICA, or Federal Insurance Contributions Acts. It's taxes that go right into, right out of your paycheck. Now, I'm going to be moderating today's panel, so let me briefly introduce our very distinguished panelists. We have Anqi Chen, and she is a senior research economist and household finance lead at the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College. And her research has been featured in so many major media outlets, among them Wall Street Journal, New York Times, The Economist. She's been on so many TV and radio shows, including CNBC and Yahoo Finance and Marketplace. And then we have Melissa Warren. She is a director of technology and curriculum at the National Association of Registered Social Security Analysts, also known as RSSA. And she educates clients on their optimal claiming strategies and analyzing the most intricate parts of Social Security cases. She's very sought after, as you can well imagine. And we also have Max Richtman. He's the president and CEO of the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, one of the nation's leading advocates for Social Security and Medicare. Max is a prominent expert on senior issues and a former staff director of the U.S. Senate Special Committee on Aging. So he knows his stuff. So I'm going to kick it off, starting off asking each of our speakers just to give very brief opening remarks, and then we're going to get into the Q&A. So Anqi, can you kick us off, please?
Sure, happy to. So I'm so glad, Beth, that you invited me to come talk with Social Security is the bedrock of retirement security in this country, and it's very important for households across the income distribution. And as we're getting closer to sort of 2033, 2034, when the trust fund is being depleted, it's such an important conversation to try and sort of close the fiscal gap that is existing. And so I think I want to start off with a little bit of sort of clarifying Social Security and what it means to people. So I think one thing that I really want to clarify is that for everyone is that Social Security is not going away and it's not going bankrupt. I hear that a lot, and it's that I think there's definitely pain points in the Social Security system. There's pain points in the retirement system, and we need to address them. But it's important to know what we're actually addressing. And it's not that it's going away. It's not that it's going to disappear. It's that, that we had built up a trust fund. It's being depleted. And if nothing is done, then that means that only the revenue going in can pay benefits, and that will mean a benefit cut of about 20%, 25% for across the board. And that is important, but that's the problem we're dealing with. It is not that it's going away, this is disappearing. I also want to say that, there's no magic formula to solve the financial shortfall, right? There's two solutions, sort of a benefit cut or a tax increase or a combination of the two. And so any discussion that offers a magic bullet or a magic third solution is not true. It's one of the two. And so it's important to frame our discussion around how do we solve Social Security so that it keeps going into the future and it keeps providing the important, crucial benefits for people in that framework. I also want to frame Social Security as not a tax or anything like that, but it's a premium that we pay on insurance, as Beth really clearly laid out what it means for people. It is an insurance program, not just for the retirees, but for for workers who become disabled or families who lose their primary breadwinner. But it also is an insurance program for, it provides longevity insurance and market risk insurance for retirees, which is the biggest beneficiary group. And just that it's a very popular program, and we really need to keep that in mind, right? It's crucial for the economic security of so many people. It is inflation protected. It is a really important component of income for retirees across income distribution. Even at the 70th, 80th percentile of households, they get, 15-20% of their income from Social Security. And so I think all of us would agree that none of us would like to see our paychecks cut by 20%. And so even at higher income levels for households, it's an important component of retirement security. And yeah, it's insurance, right? And it's for households across, different income and racial groups, particularly, Black and Hispanic households and lower income households. Social Security might be the first time in a long time that they're getting that steady paycheck. And so it's really important to keep all of these things in mind as we talk about the future of Social Security.
Thank you, Angie. And now, Melissa Lauren, it's your turn.
Great, thank you. And thank you again for having me here. I'm really honored to be here on this panel, and this discussion is so important. As Angie and Beth have talked about, this is the bedrock of financial security for many retirees in America. And for many retirees, it is also their largest asset in retirement. It's not always thought of as an asset because it's this continual, it's like an annuity, it's a continual payment. And so it should be planned around as if it is what it is, one of their largest assets. And unfortunately, it is such a complex program with so many rules that it can be a very difficult choice for retirees to make the optimal claiming decision, and just navigating the entire system is really challenging. So as we all know, these challenges with the shortfall, and that's what we're all here today, but there's so much good news around Social Security, and the interest is so high. This is not something that's going away. This is something that all Americans have paid into, see value in, see their parents, their other family members benefiting if they're older than them, and younger Americans can also guarantee to have this. It might just look a little different. So I'm excited to be discussing that today and what those solutions could be.
Certainly, last but not least, Max, you share with us some of your thoughts.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for including the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare. Just quickly, by way of background, for those who aren't familiar with our organization, it was founded about 40 years ago by a former congressman from California by the name of James Roosevelt. And he had retired from Congress, was concerned about the future of a program that he felt was his father's greatest legacy, and his father was President Roosevelt. So he created the organization almost exactly 40 years ago to protect and improve the Social Security program. And we have members and supporters, millions of them around the country. And really what unites them is their passion to protect and improve the Social Security program. And this, I'm so glad you invited me. It's really an opportune time that fits in with what we've been doing with AARP since last summer. We have, and I'm sure you're aware of this, participated in partnership with AARP in 5 forums around the country, starting last summer in Richmond, Virginia. We were in Philadelphia, Lansing, Michigan, Las Vegas, and just last month we concluded the last meeting in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And the purpose of these meetings was to talk about the value of Social Security. And I think the other panelists have certainly touched on the importance of the program for retirees, as well as younger people, survivors, children. And we also at these forums made a particular effort to dispel some of the myths about the program. And in your introduction, you really hit on an important, and the other panelists as well touched on this. Social Security has some long-range solvency issues that need to be addressed. And there are a lot of ways that can be approached, and I hope we get into some of that in this meeting. Social Security is not broke. And that's one of the myths that I think I considered myself the myth buster in chief at these meetings to dispel these myths. The only way Social Security could be broke, and you hear this a lot, broke, bankrupt, gone, is if we had 100% unemployment, right? Because as long as people are paying that FICA, Federal Insurance Contribution Act, contributing to the program will pay benefits. The trust fund that was established to save some money for this moment when baby boomers are starting to enter the program, that trust fund will be depleted in about 10 or 11 years. That has to be addressed. We have to deal with that. So there is not a reduction of 20% in the benefits in about 10 or 11 years. So it's really important that people understand the dimensions of what we have to do, and when I say we, I mean the Congress, to address the long-range solvency. We don't have to create a program that's going to disappear in 11 years. We have to fix that. We have to fix that gap. Last point I wanted to make, and this was already addressed by the panel, the others on the panel. This is a retirement program. Yes, it is inflation protected. Not enough, I don't think. The formula used to protect beneficiaries from inflation can be improved. It's flawed. It can be better. And it's a program not just for retirees. And as was mentioned, it's there for survivors, disabled. Millions of children get by in life because Social Security is there for them. And as an example, and I use this often, a 27-year-old worker who has a spouse and 2 children has right now almost $2 million in value in the Social Security program, in life insurance and in disability coverage. A lot of younger people, they're often cynical about the program's future. Is it going to be there when I retire? And I think we can dispel some of those misconceptions. But it's important for younger people to know that it's there for them right now. In case something bad happens in the family, someone's going to hopefully tell them, you ought to check with Social Security. You might find some protection there. So that's been a goal of ours. We're in partnership, as I said, with AARP for the last 5 or 6 months, and this is I think a extension of that partnership. So thank you for including me.
Thank you, Max. You're so right. I had 2 of my first cousins. Their father died when he was 3, and his mother was pregnant with the second one. And you're absolutely right. That was what helped them survive some really tough years. So thank you for raising that about dependent children. So now it's time to go to some questions. And to begin with, we're going to pose 2 questions to each of our panelists. So get ready, panelists, but I know you are ready. You are the experts on this. We're going to start with Melissa this time around. Melissa, let's get an idea of the role Social Security plays in older people's lives. What is the average Social Security income, and how dependent are New Yorkers on Social Security?
Yeah, so the average Social Security income in 2023 is, for all retired workers, just about $1,800 a month. And for couples, it's just about $3,000 a month. So this is a significant portion of their retirement finances for people across the income spectrum. For many retirees, it's their sole source of retirement income. And for others, it's paired with other assets that they have in their retirement. So the importance of this cannot be understated. It's something that they're relying on, and the changes that are projected in the program, the potential shortfall in the 2030s, that reduction of about 20% would have a significant impact on many of these retirees. And so, these changes, when they come into play, all of these retirees are very vested and interested in what's going to happen to this retirement income that they are so reliant on.
Thank you so much, Melissa. So we're going to go back to you, Anqi. Following up on what Melissa just told us, how significant a role has Social Security played in lifting up New Yorkers out of poverty?
I think Social Security plays a really important role in that, mainly because of the progressive benefit formula that it has. So for lower income workers, Social Security replaces a higher share of their pre-retirement income than for higher income workers. So for lower income workers, we really can't expect them to save outside of the, a portion of their income to set aside, for retirement. Social Security is their primary source of income in retirement. It helps prevent poverty, and it replaces a very high share of their pre-retirement income.
Okay, Max, bringing up the end of this round each time, right? So you have been to, as you said before, you've been to dozens of these events all over the country. And everywhere you go, you hear from people about how much they really depend on Social Security to help them cover their living expenses and pay their bills. But if Congress doesn't act, and you alluded to this before, if Congress doesn't act to protect Social Security in the next 10 years, then people could see their Social Security check cut by 20%. That's about $4,000 a year on average. So what do you think it'll take? Really, what do you think it'll take for Congress to get past the partisanship that we've seen and produce some real solutions to protect Social Security for the long term?
Well, the one-word answer would be courage. And that can be developed and by constituents interacting with their member of Congress, and including people that are not incumbents but campaigning to be in Congress, the House and the Senate. And let me just correct you, I haven't been to just dozens of these. I have done hundreds and hundreds. Last Saturday, I should say, I was in north of San Diego with a congressman doing a town hall meeting. And what I tell people at town hall meetings is when you go to one of these events, as we had about 150 people at this event, you need to ask the candidate or the incumbent, where do you stand on Social Security? They know there's a problem. They know in 11 years there's going to be a cut in benefits unless something is done. No member of Congress is going to want to go to a town hall meeting in 10 or 11 years and say, yeah, I was there and you're going to get a cut of 20%. That is just not acceptable. They will have to figure out a way to address that shortfall, so that the program's able to pay benefits well beyond that. So, you know, when I meet people that don't know what I do, tell them I'm at the Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, everybody says I'm for that. Everybody, Democrat, Republican, Independent. But when you go to a town hall meeting and someone who is running for Congress or is serving in Congress says, well, I'm for Social Security, that is not good enough. You have to find out what are they willing to do, what would they support to make sure the program's there, not just today and tomorrow, but for 75 years. That's pretty much the window that the Social Security people want to have the solvency extended up to. So, you know, you need, and that's why I go back to the town hall meetings. We partnered with AARP. We did just that. We tried to help educate people about the value of the program, debunk the myths about the program. And the last thing I'll say is one of the most pernicious myths is that we have to address Social Security because of the national debt. Social Security doesn't add a penny to the debt. Social Security has a surplus. And it's important that Congress does not sidestep this issue. And you probably are aware of this, and I think the other panelists as well. There's a lot of talk about creating an entitlement commission. First of all, Social Security is not an entitlement, it's an earned benefit. But a commission to examine Social Security and to circumvent the regular order of Congress, the committees in the House and the Senate that deal with legislation, have hearings, have input from groups like yours and ours and many others is what needs to happen over the next couple of years. Not a commission that will give cover to members of Congress so they won't have to take clear and maybe difficult positions, but respond to what their constituents want. And I know I've read what your president has put out at AARP, letters that she has sent to the Congress, pointing out the need for Congress to deal with it directly and not avoid responsibility by steering solutions toward a commission that will not have enough input and will allow members of Congress to be shielded from what they should be doing and what I think they're obligated to do, and that is to make sure the program continues well into the future, well beyond 11 or 12 years.
Well said. Thank you so much, Max. Okay. Well, Melissa, we're coming back to you again. You spent a lot of years working on Social Security financial education. I think all of us would really like to hear, when retirement professionals are advising clients, what kind of questions do people ask and what kind of advice do they get?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, it's all over the board. And so this is something that our company really strives to train financial professionals, tax, insurance, other retirement professionals to help their clients actually find their optimal claiming solution or filing date and other benefits that they may be entitled to before or in addition to retirement benefits, which are so commonly misunderstood. But often we'll have clients whose advisors maybe did give them a one-size-fits-all statement. Here's when you should collect your Social Security. Some advisors will tell all of their clients to file early and then invest that income if they don't need it at that time. Some advisors will always tell their clients to wait until the maximum. And again, this works great for some people. Those are the right answers for some clients. However, it's so not, it can't be done in a blanket statement in that way. It is not one size fits all. Every situation is unique. And so our main goal at RSSA is to train advisors to help their clients with navigating this tricky system where things like pensions and dependent benefits and considerations for couples are much more complex than a five tips for collecting your Social Security journal article that's posted online is ever going to give them. It's so much more complicated than that. So the RSSA designation, Registered Social Security Analyst, signifies that an advisor has gone through the course and is competent in actually helping their clients file for the optimal filing dates and navigate all of that. Yeah.
All right. Coming back to you, Angie, and I know we covered this a little bit before, but do people really understand how important Social Security is to both to the recipients, but also to the local economies? Can you talk a little bit more about this? Because I think back to Max's point, more that our legislators understand the importance of that economic stimulus. That's an important component to this, right?
Yeah, I think retirees or near retirees definitely understand the importance of Social Security and the importance it is for their own retirement security and retirement income. I wish that, you know, younger workers and just other people as a whole have a better understanding of the role of Social Security plays in their own sort of insurance, as we talked about earlier, but also that it will be there for them, at least to some extent, when they retire. And so I think if you ask any retiree, they know that Social Security plays an important role in their retirement income. I know that, you know, the National Association of Social Insurance did a survey recently about the popularity and the importance of Social Security, and overwhelmingly people have responded that they like it. It's incredibly popular, and not only that they're willing to, when faced with a hard choice of like, do they want to pay more for Social Security or to face a cut, the overwhelming majority has said that they want to pay more for it. So that just really goes to show the popularity of this program, and that is popular sort of among people across the income distribution, across, you know, regardless of whether they're Democrat or Republican, and across different groups. So I think those sort of stats really goes to show just how vital Social Security is for people and how popular it is. And I think it's important to really get sort of our congressmen to understand that. And that is such a crucial program to save and to solve.
Sounds like it scores better than Mom and Apple Pie.
Yeah.
Okay, Max, I'm going to hit you with the harder questions here. Because you did work for the United States Senate Special Committee on Aging, more than 16 years up on Capitol Hill, so you know the terrain better than anybody else. And these days, it seems like the Social Security Administration is having some real problems just carrying out its mission, right? And we're hearing stories of offices being closed. We're hearing that they're short-staffed. We're hearing that there's very long delays. People can be sitting and holding for more than 45 minutes when they call the 800 number. And everyone knows it can take years to get an answer on a disability claim. So from your perspective of congressional oversight of federal agencies, what is happening with this agency's operations?
Well, that's such a good question. But if I can, I go back to your previous question. You talked about the amount of money that goes into economies, state economies. We did a study a few years ago, and we found there's what we call it a multiplier effect. The money that is paid in benefits is expanded 2.5 times when it goes back into the economy. So it's not just the actual dollars, it's how they're spent. People that are living on Social Security, and for so many seniors, that's all they have. They're not going to invest that money. They're not going to buy stocks, and they're going to buy what they need to live. They're going to spend that money. It goes right back into the economy. That's such an important point. Now, your question, I wish if I had the answer, I'd be pretty popular here in Washington if I could get that accomplished. The Social Security program is underfunded. It has been underfunded for years. And because of that, service issues arise, delays, as you mentioned, people that have questions, people that want to call Social Security that have a question. For a number of years now, you can call an 800 number, right? Have you ever called that 800 number? I actually have. You have too. How long did you wait on hold?
A while.
A while. So this issue came up at a congressional hearing, not when I served as staff director of the Senate Aging Committee. I testified as a witness for the Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare on the issue of the 800 number. I used a prop. I called the 800 number when it was my panel came up to testify, and I sent the message to get an answer. Call that 800 number. 45 minutes later, when I was speaking, I was still on hold. And that got the attention, I think, of members of Congress. Program needs adequate funding, which it has not received for many, many years. And I'm very concerned that it is not going to receive adequate funding in this appropriations process, which has now been extended until the beginning of the year. And what I say to people that I talk to at town hall meetings, if you're a member of Congress is complaining to the Social Security Administration that his constituents or her constituents are not getting through, tell them to fund the program adequately, not just complain, but to have enough staff and enough equipment to keep these offices open, to have people answer the phone so that people can get through and get the answers to their questions. So again, it goes back to the involvement of citizens, members of AARP, members of the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare need to make sure that members of Congress put whatever pressure we can on them to get adequate funding so that they don't just issue complaints that their constituents are not getting service, but they provide the funding that is necessary. And one last point, where is this money coming from? You know, most of the administrative cost that is required to run the Social Security program comes out of the payroll tax. It's not out of general revenues. The vast majority of it comes out of the payroll tax. So when people are paying their FICA tax, they're paying to have benefits when they retire, or if they become disabled, survivor benefits, they're paying for service. So I think that I probably said enough about that. I've been talking about this, as you know, for a long time, and I appreciate the chance to be with this panel to talk a little more about it. Thank you.
We appreciate your advocacy, so thank you so much. All right, we're going to go into some general questions now, so get ready. Anybody jump in anytime you want to. And maybe, Max, you're the one for this first one. What are some potential solutions for shoring up Social Security and ensuring that recipients do not see a cut in their benefits a decade from now? What are the actual pluses and minuses, both politically and actually?
I'm happy to start. Yeah, as Angie mentioned earlier, any solution will be either increasing taxes or decreasing benefits or some combination of those two. So no matter what the actual solution is, there will be some compromise and not everyone will win. There will be some pros and cons for anyone in the system. So one of the big things that has the opportunity to shore up the surplus issue in a massive way with a low impact to most Americans, is that the increase in wages, the rate of increase in wages over the years has increased much faster than the increase of the maximum taxable earnings cap. So when that maximum taxable earnings currently is covering about 82.5% of all covered employment, when it used to cover closer to 90%. So that maximum taxable earnings cap could be increased. And of course, there are pros and cons to this, and there are differing opinions on this, but just based on that trajectory of rate of wages increasing faster, this would be one solution that, that would make sense with how the program was developed, and it would impact not all workers. And this has the opportunity, if the cap is eliminated altogether, to bring a great amount more money into the program. There are proposals that just caps it at, say, 300,000 or 5 or somewhere in between. There's also donut hole projections where instead of having the maximum taxable earnings for these high income earners, they could pay FICA taxes on a portion above a certain threshold, and then there would be a middle threshold where there isn't any FICA taxes paid. There's all sorts of proposals around this, but that would be one easier to phase in and less dramatic of a change. And then there's also the opportunity for those people to have increased benefits or not, which is also part of that discussion. The second thing that I'll say, and then I'll pass it along, is that currently the trust funds are invested very safely. They're invested in the Treasury securities, which this interest income from this investment does bring in, I think it's around 6% of the income into the Social Security program. There's the payroll taxes, the FICA taxes, there's federal income tax on those benefits, and then there's that interest income. And that's how Social Security is currently funded. That third portion is pretty small because the investment is so safe. That could be diversified to increase the amount of investment income on these trust funds.
Thank you. Okay.
So-
Oh, sorry. Thanks.
I think it's a really interesting question. I think Melissa had talked a lot about the potential solutions. I think one broad encompassing one that was proposed was the Social Security 2100 bill by Larson, and not the current one, but the 2019 version of it. And I need to clarify that because I think the 2019 version did a lot, both on the revenue side and on the benefit side, to kind of close the gap. On the benefit side, it does sort of change the indexing to CPIE, which will help in terms of how retirees' benefits keep up with inflation. It made the benefit formula a little bit more progressive. It increased the threshold for the taxation of benefits themselves, so that middle income retired households aren't then seeing a tax on their benefits, and increase the special minimum. So on the benefit side, it really helped bolster the bottom and lower income retirees. Of course, that has to be paid for. And so on the revenue side, it increased the FICA payment by 0.1% a year. It phased it in until it reached sort of 14.8 in 2048. And then it also applied an offsetting, sort of applying the tax for incomes over 400,000. So the combination of all of those both increased the benefits for beneficiaries that really needed it the most, and sort of increase the revenue to help close the gap. So there are proposals out there that, so I think comprehensive solutions like that are things that we really need to focus on and address again.
So Beth, can I jump in here? Because this is really the heart of the discussion about the future of solvency of the program. And our organization supported each version of Congressman John Larson's, he's from Connecticut, his Social Security 2100 Act. And, I hear a lot of talk about, well, we need to have a compromise. We don't need to cut benefits. Benefits are not that generous. Most people that are living on Social Security, they don't have a lifestyle that you need to cut benefits. That's not where we ought to go. What's been talked about in terms of bringing more revenue into the program, I think, is what needs to be pursued. As we've all been listening to the panelists, there is a cap on wages subject to the payroll tax. That if that is changed, it could bring in a lot of revenue. Our organization would support eliminating that cap. And a lot of people don't even, I talked about all the town hall meetings I've participated in. A lot of people don't even realize there's a cap because they've never made that much money. It goes up a little bit every year. It's about $160,000 on wages this year. And most people aren't aware of the cap because they've never reached it. And politically, it's probably not realistic to eliminate that cap altogether, because in places like where you are in New York, the cost of living is much higher. And it would be difficult, I think, for members of Congress to support eliminating the cap. But you can start collecting payroll taxes again at some other level. President Biden has committed to not raising taxes on anyone earning more than $400,000 a year in wages. So you could start again at $400,000, and since it changes a little bit every year, over time that there would be no gap. Eventually, over a period of time, all wages would be subject to the payroll tax. You can also, I think it's worth considering, we haven't taken a clear position on this, other ways of bringing in more revenue besides wages. A lot of people now that maybe would have been paid years ago in wages are getting paid in other forms, stocks, and maybe we ought to look at bringing some of those ways people are being paid besides wages into the Social Security revenue stream. So it's really important, I think, at least with our organization, to kind of draw the line. We don't want to be talking about benefit cuts, whether, sometimes people will kind of think they disguise the benefit cuts. They talk, well, we're not for cutting benefits. We're going to raise the age for getting Social Security benefits. That is a cut in benefits. You're going to get less money over the time that you would be a beneficiary if the age for receiving benefits is raised. And I hear a lot of talk about, well, people are living longer. You could start collecting Social Security later. The fact that people are living longer doesn't mean they can work longer. And where are all these jobs for people that are living longer? I don't see them. So we're focused as an organization on addressing the long-range solvency of Social Security by bringing revenue into the program in a fair way. And one of the panelists commented that if the wage cap is adjusted, those people who would be paying more should get some increase in benefits. And I agree completely with that, and hope that is one of the options that Congress will be looking at.
Thank you so much, Max. So, whoa, it's not easy, right? So how can New Yorkers cut through the red tape and get answers to basic questions about Social Security, including when to start taking it, and how much to expect in Social Security at different levels? Well, since I'm the moderator, I'm going to jump in here and answer our question. AARP is an amazing resource for so much information. And one of the areas that we particularly have a lot on is Social Security. Has got tools in there that you can take and you can figure out what's best for you. So the AARP Social Security Resource Center, and I hope the folks listening have pencil and paper handy, is at www.aarp.org/retirement/Social Security. I'm going to say that one more time because it is a great resource. You go to https and then the www.aarp.org/retirement/Social Security. And I hope you'll get all the answers that you need. And then you can always call Social Security on the phone on the 800 number and set aside some time to hang out there on the phone waiting for them to get on for you.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to go to another question, which I think people are really curious about. And this is when I go out in the field and we do events on Social Security. This is the one I get the most questions on. People don't really understand how spousal benefits work, right? And what should they know about it? And do they have to be currently married? Do they, if they're widowed or if they're divorced or whatever? Could somebody jump in here and give folks a little bit of advice on this? Anybody?
I'm happy to jump in.
Right,
So Social Security spousal benefits are a great resource for retirees because it's one of the programs that acknowledges the work of sort of the secondary earner or the non-primary earner. And so the way the formula works is that if your own work history, your own retirement benefit is less than 50% of your spouse's, then you would get sort of a top up to meet sort of the 50% mark. And so that is the way that the formula is calculated in terms of whether you qualify and whether you have to be currently married. The rule is if you've been married, you don't have to be currently married, but if you were married in the past for at least 10 years, then you could receive benefits on your former spouse's benefit.
Information. Thank you so much. So I guess and this is one that, again, you hear a lot of frustration. And again, this is one of those questions I get when I'm out in the field all the time, which is, how long does it take to claim Social Security disability insurance benefits? Did I stump the stars here? Have you answered that one?
How long does it take to process the application?
Claim Social Security disability insurance benefits. And yes, and to process it, right?
It's such a process.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you might also both have other things to add, but I would always recommend that somebody reaches out to a disability attorney if that is an available option for you, for the purpose of this being that they get paid from the back payment. So there isn't an upfront cost to this attorney. However, you'll have a significantly higher chance of getting it approved on the first try of that application because it is such a long waiting period and many of these applications are not approved. And this isn't necessarily because the person does not qualify for disability insurance, but that the Social Security definition of disability is very strict. It has to do not just with the person's condition, but their ability to work. And it is a complete and permanent disability that qualifies. So kind of navigating that system properly on the first go will really speed up the process. Of course, not everyone needs that type of help, but it is a good option if you do consider that you're on the line. There is one other portion of this that, because we're talking about solvency, that I know there have been proposals to do away with. And this is the 5-month waiting period. So Social Security disability insurance isn't actually able to be received until after a 5-month waiting period. And there have been proposals to strengthen, this isn't fixing the solvency, this is strengthening the actual benefits, which can add to that problem. But that's all okay. This is little pieces here and there, and strengthening the program is important. So that's one thing that has been proposed. Maybe one of you have more to add on that topic.
Well, let me just add that, Melissa makes a very good suggestion. It is complicated. It is not only time consuming when you apply. If an application is denied and you want to appeal, that is going to take a very long time. And as I'm sure she knows, many people that make that appeal, and there's some shocking statistics about this, many of them, they'll die before a benefit is approved or a claim is resolved. And this goes back to the funding issue of the Social Security program. There needs to be adequate funding so that this whole process is speeded up. If you are disabled and you're waiting for such a long time to get a benefit approved, and if it's not approved, then if you've got to wait another 18 months or so while appeal, it works its way through the process because there are not enough staff to properly process that, judges to consider it. That is just really not acceptable. And going back to the importance of members of Congress hearing from their constituents if there is a problem, and not just sloughing it off on the Social Security, but providing enough resources so that the program is adequately funded. Disability benefits are processed in a timely way, and appeals as well are processed in a timely way.
Thank you so much. I wanted to go back for a second, if I could, back to the Social Security and the spousal question, because I feel like there's two areas that we might not have touched on. And I want to make sure that the audience hears the answers to this question. So if I were a spouse and if I claim Social Security on my spouse's or ex-spouse's record, will it affect their payment?
A good question. And the answer is no. And this is even the case if, as an ex-spouse, your ex-spouse, who was the primary earner, now has a current spouse or has a second ex-spouse. There is no effect on the wage earner, the primary wage earner, who you're collecting on their earnings record, or other dependents who are collecting on it, with the exception of if you are currently married and you're collecting a spousal benefit, and there are also other dependent benefits, such as minor children benefits that are collected. There is a maximum, a family maximum benefit, which can be collected. So that's the only time when it can impact others in that scenario. But one other thing I would like to add about spousal benefits specifically is that spouse who's collecting a spousal benefit doesn't even have to qualify for their own retirement benefit. In many cases, they do. It might be lower, and so then they get a top-up amount up to that 50% of their spouses. But in other situations where they were a caregiver and didn't work to earn the 40 quarters of coverage needed to qualify for those retirement benefits, they are fully entitled to a spousal benefit. And then later, if their spouse passes away before them, additionally, a survivor benefit.
Yeah, and the other question related to this is, people ask, how much will my payment be if I claim Social Security at 62 and my spouse retired at full retirement age? So will it be calculated on my spouse's retirement age or on my retirement age?
It will always be based on the age of the person who's filing. So if in the scenario that you just said, say the higher earner filed at their full retirement age, and then the lower earner who's collecting the spousal benefit files at age 62. It all will be percentage based on your full retirement age. But for a person who has a full retirement age of 67, if they collect a spousal benefit at 62, they would be receiving 32.5% of their spouse's primary insurance amount. So again, it's the age of the person filing for the benefits. That's the determining factor.
Very important in determining
Yeah.
how much money you will have for your retirement.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Take out a sharp pencil when you're doing those calculations, right? Okay, well, this has been great. The answers have been terrific, but I want to give each of you a chance if there's something else, great information that you'd like to share that you think folks in the audience need to hear. Love to do it now. And let's start off with you, Anqi, if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has been a really great discussion. We've heard about the importance of Social Security and some proposals that are out there to solve the solvency gap for the long run. And I think it's really important, as Max had mentioned, to ask our representatives, because, you know, as we go through or as we get closer to another election cycle, I think politicians know that there is a problem that needs to be solved, and they know that it's popular, and they don't want to necessarily address the issue in terms of, are they going to commit to a tax increase? Are they going to commit to a benefit cut, which would be really unpopular? And so we're getting pretty close to the date. We're only 10, 11 years out. And so now is the time that we really need to get serious about solutions. It's not helpful to dance around the topic anymore, saying that we're committed to helping retirees, we're committed to, and understand that it's a popular program. But because of that, it's important that we actually sit down and address real solutions. And so for people to ask their representatives and say, what are your specific solutions for Social Security? What are the specific things that you want to that we want to see to solve the solvency issue and to preserve retirement benefits, not only for current retirees, but for future retirees? Now is the time to get to specifics.
I was going to say, now is not the time to be shy, right? Now is the time to go forth and ask those questions. Very good. Thank you, Anqi. I'm going to go to Melissa next.
Yeah, kind of echoing Anqi, it's so important for everyone. Everyone is so invested in this. Literally, you've been investing your payroll taxes into this fund. So it's important to understand it yourself, use the correct terminology. The trust fund isn't running out. The reserves, the surplus is being depleted. And this is a serious issue. And the sooner the action is taken, the less impact it is, right? It can be phased in. So it's less impactful and an easier transition. So this is something that the faster these decisions are made, the sooner, the better, because then this process and any transition will be so much easier for everyone involved. So another resource I would encourage people to check out, it's kind of fun. It's a little informational game. If you just Google the Social Security Challenge, it's an interactive web-based challenge by, I believe, the American Academy of Actuaries. And it's a little game where you can read little blurbs of some considerations in solving the solvency issue and then fix it yourself. You'll select which solutions. And so it's something that's really valuable to consider because there's so many different people who are impacted across the states, across the income. It's so important. So I would encourage people to just stay active, stay informed, and hopefully we see some change.
So those actuaries can make things that are fun and games for us. Who knew? Thank you. And to you, Max, please.
Thank you. Thank you. So again, I appreciate being invited to be part of this discussion. Let me echo what Melissa and Anqi have said. I think most members of Congress not all, but most, vast majority, they are concerned about their welfare of their constituents. They want to be responsive. They got to hear from them. They got to hear from their constituents, whether it's letters, emails, postcards, town hall meetings, and as has been pointed out a couple of times, Social Security has overwhelming support, over 80–90%, Democrats, Republicans, Independents. And I think if this support is communicated to members of Congress, they're going to hear it, but they got to hear it more than once. They got to hear it over and over again, because they're listening to a lot of different issues being discussed at town hall meetings, so that it's a process of repetition, and especially then we've got to get through to younger people. They're the most cynical about the future of the program, and I know you and Melissa, Angie, you run into younger people who will say, well, it won't be there, right? It won't be there when I retire. I'm 25, 30, 35. And you know why? They have been bombarded for decades with a lot of misinformation about the program being broke, bankrupt, the government stealing all the money. There's no money there, a bunch of IOUs. None of that stuff is true. So they've got to listen to actual facts, programs like this, the town hall meetings we conducted with the AARP, however we can get the message out. Because those people, and I've heard them say, I'm more likely to see a UFO than to ever get a Social Security check. I'm more likely to run into Bigfoot somewhere than to get a Social Security check. That's not true, but we've got to keep up the pressure and get the accurate information out, especially to younger people.
So true. And you know what? They have earned it. They have to be reminded that that money, that FICA is coming out of their paychecks every week or every other week, or whatever their pay periods are. And that's your money. You earned it. And let's not forget about that. So thank you so much for saying that, Max. On behalf of AARP New York, I want once again to thank the 92nd Street Y for sponsoring this on a topic that really should be, or certainly will be, very important to everyone who's listening in. I want to go back to that point that Melissa made before. We've got a short runway here, right? We've got 10 or 11 years, and every year we delay, that runway of getting solutions in place shortens, which makes it more difficult. So let's take care of it right now. I think that's what we're all saying. It's really important for all of us. So I want to thank our panelists for bringing such a thoughtful, really a lot of wisdom to this conversation and discussion. And thank you all for watching. And by doing so, you're showing up, you're showing that you care. And now we hope that you also show your electeds how much you care. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.